Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Langley Lab, where we will discuss the differences between the IBM Cognos Analytics 11.2.4 version and the upgrade that you've probably seen some information on from UKG. And so we will be going into, if you're not familiar with IBM Cognos Analytics, it is what UKG calls people analytics. And so there is a lot of buzz around this upgrade and it will impact and what kind of steps you need to take in order to make sure you are prepared. So let's get into it. So in this presentation, as I mentioned, this information is what I have collected as of 2/25/2026. So as more information comes out, definitely be on those notifications. UKG is really good at sending notifications to your super admins or your SaaS vocal contacts. If you don't know who those are, definitely get in touch with them to find out the latest and greatest. So what has changed? And this won't all be words, although a lot of it is. I'll show a couple of screenshots later on to show you the main differences between what is changing and what is staying the same. Now, what is changing? They're doing a lot of look and feel upgrades that are going to make the environment feel a lot more cohesive and a deeper contrast, if you will. So it's easier for the user to understand what they need to do when they get into IBM. They do boast about their interactive reports and the ability to do similar to what dashboards can do right now, where if you click on a part of a dashboard, let's say a part of a pie chart on a dashboard, it will automatically highlight data on all the other charts and change it, basically filter everything else on the dashboards. And so reports now can do something similar with something called interactive brushing. And I'll show you what that kind of looks like on the report and what the new icon will look like. There's also a higher level of control on your CSV exports. So previously, it was just one standard CSV export. You didn't have an option to change whether it was pipe delimited or comma delimited. As we know, there's a lot of CSV options out there. So now you have that granularity available to you in the new version. And then there's easier system administration tools that are probably way more helpful for UKG than to us, but for some of us that do manage security in the system, it'll be good to know. And then there's a lot of new up-to-date technical foundation behind the scenes. So, things are constantly changing. And so staying up to speed on those things is going to be very important. Now, things that did not change, if you're bringing in a lot of external data into IBM to do analytics and to compare maybe, productivity outside of UKG, that framework should remain the same, although it's very important that you test it out because who knows, right? Most of the existing reports will continue to work with the exception of queries. UKG has rightfully warned customers that they must convert those to reports prior to the upgrade. And so it is very important. Now, they have not officially released a date for the upgrade to 12.1.0, but take the proactive measures right now that we're still in early 2026 to make that crossover. And it's very easy if you look it up in the community. All you have to do is click on the three dots at the top right of the report if it's a query and click convert to report and save it with a new name. So pretty self-explanatory. It will not be possible. I repeat, it will not be possible to change those two reports after the upgrade. So critical. If you have any reports you highly rely on, change those ahead of time. You will want to do that. Now, your data models should also not need to be rebuilt, but I say that with caution because, as we know, things don't always go as smoothly as they are intended to. So always double check, especially those really critical reports. The user experience, now this is a high level, and I'll go into some screenshots side by side to give you a little bit more visuals. But the homepage, navigation, font design, and help, they all got a facelift, essentially. So this is what the homepage will look like in the 11.2.4 version versus the 12.1.0 version. Automatically, something stands out to me. I can ask a question. What is that, right? Now, I tested this out, right, in our test environment. And you cannot really do a lot with that. And I'll show you a screenshot of what I mean by it. But I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is probably an AI feature that it's better built into the system and we can now help it, ask it for more help. No, it's very, very limited, at least the way it is right now. But yeah, you can simply create, which is doing the same thing as present data was, or you can click on learn, which I like that it's up front and center. Previously, in the old version, you'd have to click on this question mark to get to that learn portion that is now more readily just here in your face. The other cool thing is I really like that the menu options have changed. It defaults to your recent, which the old one did as well. But now you can toggle and you can actually favorite reports, which I like because there is craziness in all these reports. And that is a feature I'm going to absolutely use. Now, you also notice that there is this little chat box at the top right in the new version. That is the same thing as this ask a question option here. And so it's quite limited, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the navigation, I do like this improvement. There are less number of clicks you have to do to get to what you need to do. Previously, you'd get this default navigation menu, and then you'd have to click new, and then you would get this slew of options. And then if you wanted to go Event Studio, you'd have to do another click. Now it's just 2 clicks, I guess, if you go to the navigation and then new, and it gives you all the options, which is nice because now I don't have to click to a separate place to get to Event Studio. And again, they have this assistant chat here, but so far it's not doing very much, but I hope that there's improvement there. And then some of the fonts and the facelift, there's a higher contrast on the right-hand side in the new version than there is on the left-hand side. Brighter colors, as you can see. The fonts even got a little bit of a facelift, so that's pretty cool. And at the point in which I put this slideshow together, it was not available, the Learn section. But I do enjoy the new version. It definitely has a lot more cohesiveness. Before it was just kind of like a list of articles. So I do enjoy that improvement there. And this is probably way more helpful, at least as of now, than the assistant. It can help you a lot more with some of the basics in Cognos Analytics than this ask a question feature. Now, I tried to use that assistant. I was like, okay, cool. Like, let me see what it can do. In the test environment, I selected a package, which all of these are administered by UKG. So I selected the most basic package, the My Employees one. And it mentioned that I changed my source, but then it automatically gave me this message that said, hey, your data source has not been enriched. You can enrich this data source to enable additional analytics, which I was like, oh, that's sweet. How do I do that? So I clicked on there and I'll save you the research. It's probably not something that's within our capabilities as UKG Pro customers. It is likely something controlled at UKG's level as system administrators. I also asked it to create a dashboard because, funny enough, it was one of the options available when I clicked on the ask a question, but it couldn't do it because the data package is not enriched. So, what's up, UKG? What is happening? Are we going to enrich these data packages so we can actually use this? Who knows? I hope so. The other part is I opened up dashboards to kind of notice what the biggest differences there were. And again, some of the items have higher contrast, like the edit. And then I noticed this little sun next to some of the visualizations. I was like, ooh, what's that? That's pretty. I hovered over it and it's called Narrative Insights. And I believe this is something that was previously available, but now they have like a little icon to define it. And this is an example of one used. And I definitely want to call out the performance of the dashboard because I pulled this up both simultaneously and the dashboard, the older version loaded a lot slower than the newer version, which is promising to what they are claiming is scalable and higher performing with the newer version. So very exciting there. And I clicked on Narrative Insights to kind of see what it would do. It definitely takes a little while to load, but it is doing some of that work for you, highlighting what the differences are between totals. And what I'm looking at here is a diversity dashboard that is a standard dashboard delivered by UKG. So if you're curious about that, definitely comment down below. We can send you the XML or just link it to where the location is in UKG BI. It'll give you some narrative insights versus just giving you averages and other things like that. That the previous little light bulb insights, if you clicked on that, it could give you an average, it could give you totals, some basic calculations. But I really like this narrative insights because it breaks it down in natural language that we would normally use. So that's really nice. The other thing I wanted to highlight here is if you click on any of the widgets, which I call each of these, it will give you all of these options. And the biggest difference was there's now an embed feature available for these widgets, which means you could probably put it into other dashboards or other places within BI or even externally. I don't know what the limitations of that are, but wanted to point that out as a potentially available feature. So if you wanted to drag something from a different dashboard into another one, maybe we can do it now. So that's kind of interesting. There's probably some limitations that I probably wouldn't go that route for many dashboards because it would probably break some things, but it's very cool. So thinking outside the box for those ideas, just start to get the noggin going on some of the reasons you might want to use that embed feature. Now, I wanted to mention the AI assistant. In the previous version, probably didn't even notice it. UKG likely never highlighted it, never even brought it up because it was just an add-on. Now in 12.1, we can see there's beginnings of an AI assistant, but as you saw in my example, very limited. Yes, it's easier to access, but still does not do a lot. And I asked it in plain English some things. It likely is not enabled at its fullest at the UKG level since they're the true tenant of it. But I do like that it's up front and center, and I hope to see more of it. Reporting and dashboards, this is kind of a high level. I did show some of the features. And if you know, you can click to highlight data. That is now a thing in both reports and dashboards. Just want to mention that. So that is really exciting. There is an interactive brush work that you can add to reports when they're loaded in HTML to kind of see and filter the same way that you would in dashboards. So that's really cool. And then you can limit the amount of data that's shown on reports or dashboards so that it can load faster. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely do it, especially if you have thousands and thousands of employees in the organization. Might be worth it to do that. And then the exporting as CSV, we get that higher level of additional user configuration. Like I mentioned, you can export it as with pipe delimited or comma. So we get more of those. Search prompts, you can also limit options. You were able to limit options before, but I don't know if it was as upfront as it is now. So that's cool. Some of the things that maybe we don't see behind the scenes, but I think it's really interesting to get into UKG's shoes and to see what they might be doing in the back end as we go through this upgrade. They have newer supported Javas for better security and long-term support, which is great news for us as end users. And they use updated browser technology so that there's fewer display issues, yay, and better compatibility because there are always some of those pesky server errors that come up. And even in dashboards, when data doesn't load, it's not always pretty. Talk to the manager about that. So, very excited to hear that. And then there's upgrades to the system database structure during installation. So as you load and open up reports or dashboards in the new version, it'll give you a banner at the very top that says upgrade in progress, and it's going to upgrade the report and tell you in green big letters that it's been successfully upgraded to the new version. So that's pretty cool. And then improved security and governance, again, probably more for UKG, but if you're an administrator of BI, you likely have the ability to control users and roles and permissions. So I'm very excited to see that upgrade there. So it better aligns with audit and compliance needs, especially for those of us that are public companies and require extra level of reporting. So, what I hope this comes with is a little bit more ability to run more detailed reports on scheduled reports. Currently, you can request a report of scheduled reports from UKG, but with very limited information. You can't see who it's scheduled to or what the subject lines are, what the body of the message is. So I'm hopeful that with this new upgrade, we are able to get more insights on those things versus just the generic, hey, this is something that's scheduled and you might want to look at it. So hopefully that's the long-term idea. Bottom line is it's more secure, easier to manage, and it's built on newer technology that will keep the same core reporting system, which is important. Upgrade risk. Now, some of the things that are low risk are standard reports, dashboards, data models, some of the core functionality that we covered. And then moderate that might require some testing. And I don't know how many customers are using this, but custom JavaScript, maybe some themes and branding may be impacted. Email configuration updates. So if you have certain things encoded, high volume dashboards as well, you want to do a load of those in the test environment, should you have one, and just make sure everything looks correctly in the new display. And then some of the planning where items are needed. I won't go over store upgrade, but if there's any legacy data sources that your company uses that are custom, I definitely want to double check those and that they'll still be supported. Some old custom integrations, UKG does say test any APIs or anything that is being sent out via RAS potentially so that everything still works as you expect. And then the biggie that I've mentioned once before in this presentation, but we'll mention it again because of how important it is to your organization, is if there are any queries in your environment, it is crucial you convert them to reports before the upgrade comes out. Now, UKG is sending out an email ahead of time to your system administrators and saying, hey, the upgrade is coming up on XY date and likely early 2026. So it's very important to convert those because after the upgrade, you will not be able to convert those. So critical that you follow through on that. Overall, definitely make sure you're testing in dev and aka test environment. And really, we're not in control of the rollout. It's all up to UKG. So just be prepared because they have not really released an official date. They're kind of doing it in groups of customers as it comes. So very important. Now, this is some of the performance and scalability, even that I witnessed during the dashboard load that I gave you an example of earlier, but I won't go over it. Just know it's working better and faster. Now, timing considerations, IBM will cut off support to the old version, 11.24, which is the version that most customers are on right now, on April 30th, 2026. Now, UKG has not provided a deployment date for this upgrade yet to the 12.1.0 version. However, if this is any indication that you should be preparing and converting those queries to reports prior to April 30th, high likelihood that UKG will deploy this upgrade prior to that point to your production environment. So be on the lookout. They have been sending notifications to customers that have a test environment and letting them know that, hey, it is now in your test environment. And they're giving you quite a big lead time. I believe maybe 3 out of the 5 customers we've worked with have the upgrade in the test environment. So that's really good news and definitely get on that. Now, this is just a quick conclusion. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but it's all good news for us. Better, faster, stronger. You know, hit the song. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, So user experience, strategic future proofing, overhaul index user experience. So that's really good news. And modernization is just something, change is the only constant. We hope you found this presentation helpful. And if there's any opportunity that you're interested in working together, finding out more, feel free to email us at info@langleyconsulting.com. And we'd love to hear from you and see if we'd be a good fit. So like and subscribe. It definitely keeps us going and providing more content like this, and it just fuels us. So definitely feel free to leave any comments as well, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you again, and hope you have a great one. Bye.